All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about sponsor recognition. And I want you to know this is so much more than just, sending a thank you note. It is a core strategy that can literally make or break your nonprofit's financial health. When you do it right, it turns a simple transaction into a real, lasting partnership. So let me just ask you, straight up, are your sponsors sticking around? If you're feeling a little knot in your stomach answering that, believe me, you are not alone. Sponsor churn is this huge, often invisible problem for so many organizations. But why does hanging on to the sponsors you already have matter so much? Well, this number pretty much says it all. Getting a brand new sponsor can cost you anywhere from 5 to 25 times more than just keeping an existing one. That's an absolutely staggering difference. Every single time a sponsor walks out the door, you're not just losing their support, you're forced to start an expensive, time-consuming search all over again from scratch. And that brings us right here to the high cost of churn. We're about to break down how losing sponsors isn't just a failure in relationship building, it's a direct punch to your budget and a major roadblock for your mission's momentum. This chart paints a pretty bleak picture, doesn't it? As you can see, nonprofits only manage to keep about 19.4% of new donors. Let me put that another way. For every 5 new supporters you work so hard to bring in, 4 of them just disappear. And what's worse, this trend is actually getting worse year over year. So, what is going on? Why are these really valuable sponsors heading for the exit? Well, it almost always comes down to a few critical and honestly completely avoidable mistakes. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of what's driving them away. Just look at this comparison. On one side, you've got that generic copy and paste thank you email. It feels cold, automated. It makes a sponsor feel like they're just another line item on a spreadsheet. But on the other side, a personalized acknowledgement that makes them feel like a genuine, valued partner in your mission. And this isn't just about warmed fuzzies. It has very real consequences. And here are those consequences, right here in black and white. The reactivation rate for sponsors who leave is a measly 4%. Just let that sink in for a second. Once they're gone, they are almost certainly gone for good. That generic approach isn't just a missed opportunity, it's actively pushing your partners away. Melinda Colazzi really nails it here. She says customization is key for sponsorship packages. But guess what? The exact same logic applies to your recognition strategy. A one-size-fits-all thank you completely ignores what motivates your sponsors and basically screams that you see the relationship as purely transactional. The stakes we're talking about here are just enormous. Corporate giving alone racks up nearly $30 billion in a single year. This isn't some small pot of money. It's a massive river of opportunity that organizations are risking every single time they fail to properly acknowledge their partners. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's start talking about the solution. A smart, strategic recognition program can turn this entire situation around. This isn't about damage control. It's about building something way stronger and more resilient for the future. And a huge part of that solution is storytelling. Think about this for a second. Stories are remembered up to 22 times more than just plain facts. Why is that? It's because stories tap into our emotions. They build a connection and make an abstract idea like impact feel personal and real. When you stop just reporting numbers and you start telling stories, you create this incredibly powerful emotional bond. And here's the proof in the pudding. I mean, just look at the difference on this chart. Organizations that really lean into storytelling see a 45% donor retention rate. And for those that don't, it's way down at 27%. That's a massive gap, and it's all driven by a simple shift from data to narrative. A perfect example is Alex's Lemonade Stand. Their powerful emotional story of a young girl's fight against cancer has built these deep, enduring partnerships with huge brands. Northwestern Mutual alone has given over $20 million. That's not a sponsorship, people. That is a deep, story-driven commitment to a mission. So where do you tell these amazing stories? Well, visibility is everything. Recognition needs to be woven into your website, your social media, and especially your newsletters. In fact, fun fact, nonprofits have the highest email open rates of any industry, over 20%. That makes your newsletter an absolute goldmine for featuring your sponsors and showing them some love. So how do we actually put all this into practice? How do we make that leap from a simple transaction to a genuine partnership? Let's walk through a clear, actionable playbook right now. It really boils down to this simple 3-step playbook. First, you've got to take the time to really understand their goals. What does success look like for them? Is it brand awareness, employee engagement, something else entirely? Second, personalize your recognition to line up directly with those goals. If they want reach, you feature them on social media. If they want to engage their team, you create volunteer opportunities. And third, and this is so important, stay in touch. This cannot be a once-a-year thing. It has to be an ongoing conversation. This quote from Amanda Wilson just perfectly captures that third point. It's all about relationship development. And that means you need a real plan for year-round contact that goes way beyond just your fundraising season. You check in just to share a success story they made possible. You invite them to an event where you're not asking for anything. You build that trust without always having your hand out. And finally, you have to measure your success. How do you even know if your new recognition strategy is actually working? Well, by tracking the right stuff, you can prove the value of all your hard work and, tweak your approach as you go. Okay, this slide is just wow. It's so telling. Frequent sponsors, the ones who are consistently engaged and recognized, have a retention rate of nearly 87%. Now compare that to just over 32% for one-time sponsors. This just shows you the immense, undeniable power of building an ongoing relationship. So what should you be tracking? Well, your retention rate is the big, obvious one. But don't you dare stop there. Look at the sponsor's return on investment, their ROI. Work with them to see if their brand visibility went up or if they hit their marketing goals. Get their direct feedback through surveys or just conversations to see how satisfied they are. And track the audience reach you're giving them. Altogether, these metrics paint a complete picture of the value you're creating for them. Look, the most crucial takeaway here is to be strategic. The 90-10 rule often applies here. About 90% of your revenue probably comes from just 10% of your supporters. These key relationships absolutely deserve that high-touch, personalized recognition. A handwritten note, a personal phone call. That's what makes all the difference for this vital group. And that really leaves us with this final thought. Are your sponsors just funders who write a check once a year? Or are they true champions for your mission, people who are personally invested in your success and who advocate for your cause? The difference between those two, well, it all comes down to recognition and making them feel like the heroes they really are.